باسمت كمينا هليلويا تشبحت لعله على الطو ثيدت لفيلا هليلويا مما لا خير.
The church is a place of worship. Naos Kiram. In English, we call the place as church, and in Malayalam as Palli. The word church is used in two senses: a Christian community and the house where people gather for worshipping God. The church is the holy place where the congregation of the faithful or believers gather together as a church to worship God. The most common and central idea about the church is that it is the heaven on earth. Through the worship which takes place in it, we enter into a relationship or communion with heaven which is to come. In Judaism thought, the temple was the symbol of the presence of God in their midst. The Orthodox Church also considers the church as a symbol of God's presence. The temple is decorated with symbols and marvelous sculptures in order to make this presence felt. For the members of the Eastern Church, their church is a representation of the universe. The Eastern Church considers that since the perfected salvation act of Lord Jesus Christ took place in the background of the entire universe, the Holy Qurbana, which is the reenactment and declaration of it, also takes place in the background of the entire universe. The church is the heart of a parish, which is a similar replica of the church. There are comparative references to the church as the spiritual Eden. Genesis chapter 2 verses 8 to 17, chapter 3 verse 24. Spiritual Sinai, Exodus chapter 19 verses 1 to 25. Spiritual Mount Moriah, Genesis chapter 22 verses 1 to 18. Spiritual Bethel, Genesis chapter 28 verses 10 to 20. Spiritual Tent of the Lord's Presence or Tabernacle, Genesis chapter 25 to 40. Spiritual Elim, Genesis chapter 15 verse 27 and Numbers chapter 33 verse 9. Noah's Ark, Genesis chapter 6 verse 13 to Genesis chapter 8 verse 22. Spiritual Mount Tabor, Matthew chapter 17 verses 1 to 8, Mark chapter 9 verses 2 to 10, Luke chapter 9 verses 28 to 36, and 2 Peter chapter 1 verses 17 to 18. The Zoar of Salvation, Genesis chapter 13 verses 10 and Genesis chapter 19 verses 22. Spiritual Jerusalem, 1 Kings chapter 6 verses 1 to 38, chapter 7 verses 13 to 15, John chapter 4 verses 20.
നിൻമുറിവുകളി നേറ്റേൻ മൂറോൻ മണമൻ നാഥ നിന്നതരങ്ങളഹോ പട്ട